I'm joined by Congresswoman Bachmann. Thanks very much for the time. And want to start first, going to ask you about your departure from Congress in a moment, but I want to start first on some current events. You're a member of the Intel Committee. You've been very outspoken in your criticism of President Obama and his taking on of the Islamic State. What is your sense right now about his plan at this moment in time? You'd like to see American boots on the ground instead?
I don't criticize President Obama taking on the Islamic State. I wish he had taken them on earlier. Sitting on the Intelligence Committee, we knew about the Islamic State. We knew about the Khorasan group. Presumably the president did as well. A lot of this Islamic jihadist tempo was up-tempo for the last year and a half. So we knew this was coming. And I think that's why it was patently obvious that the last thing the president should have done is pull U.S. residual forces out of Iraq, because they were there simply for one purpose. It was to maintain the peace. Now we see the lack of wisdom.
The decision the Iraqis made, particularly Nouri al-Maliki.
Well, let's face it. We were the economy. We were the backbone. For us to put nearly $1 trillion into Iraq and leave, and we don't even have rights to an air base, we had a lot more leverage than the president was willing to use.
What about the policy going forward? You've said, listen, the president's strategy at this point is inadequate. You've called for Congress declaring war on the Islamic State. You are talking about American boots on the ground. You think that would be the preferred option here?
The preferred option is to defeat the Islamic State as quickly and decisively as possible. That's why I think the president's strategy is not the right strategy, because it's a dribs and drab Vietnam War style strategy that didn't work real well in Vietnam. I believe we need to engage in a World War II type strategy wherein we get serious about this issue. We have the finest military in the world. Why wouldn't we use it? Instead, what we're doing is proactively training Syrians for 3 weeks and putting a gun in their arms and thinking somehow they're going to defeat a very large, very senior trained Islamic army. It's going to be very difficult to do, and that's why I don't want to see us goofing around and wasting very valuable time. I want to see us defeat them.
You know, some of your fellow Republicans in Congress very leery and opposed to the idea of putting U.S. boots on the ground. The cautionary tale for them is the Iraq War, is what's happened in Afghanistan. They don't want to put Americans in the middle of another sectarian conflict.
Well, the president has us involved in a sectarian conflict. We're already doing airstrikes with American resources. The way the war is progressing now, because it is a war, the way it's progressing, eventually the United States will have to come in. Even the White House admitted that over the weekend. A White House senior advisor said, yes, we may have to go in the future, but if we do, we won't go in with a combat mission, and our troops will only be able to fire if they're fired upon. Well, that doesn't sound like a winning strategy. No combat strategy, and not being able to fire first. You have to wait until you're fired upon. That's never going to defeat the Islamic State. I think we need to have a realistic view, and we need to take them as serious as they are and defeat them. Defeat them early when they're at their weakest.
Let me switch gears to politics. You are set to leave Congress. You're going to be speaking to the Value Voters Summit here in Washington later on today. Are you going to shock the world and announce you're running for president again?
No, I will not. I was very grateful for the opportunity and privilege I had to run in 2012. I intend to be very involved in the election, but perhaps from a media point of view, a speaking point of view.
In mind right now, a Republican candidate?
I will by the time 2016 comes around. We have a plethora of riches. We have great candidates that are expressing interest. Obviously, no one is declared, but by my count, there's about 16 so far that have expressed very serious interest. That field will probably winnow a bit as the months go by, and it's quite a task to put together a presidential effort, but I think we'll have a very good candidate on the GOP side.
What if, do you think Mitt Romney should run again?
Mitt Romney is a great candidate, and he may be the candidate if he chooses to run, but we'll see.
Let me ask you finally about Congress. You are departing. Speaker Boehner, do you think Speaker Boehner continues on as Speaker of the House in the next Congress? Will his fellow Republicans elect him Speaker again?
I don't know. That will be up to the Speaker. I'm not sure that he will. He may stay on and do what former Speaker Denny Hastert did and resign after the election. I don't know. It'll be up to the Speaker to make that choice. But I think, again, people are looking for a bold, fresh vision, and whether they want to give that mantle to John Boehner or another member of the House, we'll have to see.
If you were there, would you vote for him?
I have to see at the time. I have to see what his vision is, what he's planning to do, and who the other candidates are.
All right. Congresswoman Bachmann, thanks very much. Your final weeks in Congress. We appreciate you joining us here on Bloomberg.